Okay, today is Tuesday, October 1st, 2024. It's about 10 a.m. I'm David Siegel, and this is, I guess, BT Anthony. Is that how you want me to? Is it BT?
BT, please.
Sure. Welcome to my first debate that anyone has ever accepted. And we're talking about science and climate science. So first, I thought maybe it would be good to just talk a bit about our backgrounds and things some common ground we might have.
I don't think background is really relevant here. If we want to go into science, let's pull off the kid gloves and go for it.
No background, no interest in background.
Nope.
All right, I will give my background in climate science. I'm trying to get my camera to focus. Come on, camera. There we go. Great. I've been studying climate since the mid-1980s. And in 1991, I wrote a book after graduate school at Stanford, I wrote this book on conservation because I was concerned about the environment. And a third of the book was about how humans are destroying the climate with CO2. Almost entirely based on Al Gore's book, Earth in the Balance, which I bought hook, line, and sinker. In 2015, I came back, learned a lot of statistics, and started reading papers and writing. And since then, I have about 7,000 hours in studying climate. I've made many videos and written hundreds of essays. And I now teach a climate class that's available to anyone who wants to take it at climatecurious.com. Anything you want to say about your study of climate?
I simply let the facts speak for themselves.
Right. Okay. Sure. How would you like to start, BT?
Simply put, there's not a shred of credible, independent, or peer-reviewed research that supports the denier narrative. And the denier narrative I'm classifying as the refusal to acknowledge the fact that human activity is rapidly warming the planet, well outside of any natural cycle, or even when considering all natural drivers right now on balance should be slightly cooling the planet.
Should be slightly cooling the planet. Let's see, how do we know that?
Well, it's that funny thing called science again.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and especially when you consider things such as the carbon cycle with atmospheric CO2 now well over 40% higher than at any point in the past 800,000 years.
Sure.
The majority of that, currently topping 426 parts per minute, the majority of that has taken place in the past 150 years, with temperatures responding accordingly.
So how long ago, or we're at a maximum of CO2 for how long?
800,000 years. It's been hovering between 180 and about 300 parts per million.
And we know that from,
A variety of core samples,
for example,
ice core samples,
paleo
climate samples, and so forth.
any particular cores you want to mention, or they all agree?
Vostok cores, for one.
Vostok.
But
Okay.
also, I recommend anybody who'd like to follow up on this to go to the NASA website on climate science, and they break down the data sets very admirably.
I see. And what about before 800,000 years ago? Was there CO2 then?
The fact that CO2 may have been higher at any point in the distant past is really irrelevant here.
Huh.
We're focusing this conversation on the reality of anthropogenic global warming and the fact that CO2 began to skyrocket well outside the natural balance with the onset of the Industrial Revolution and the worldwide combustion of fossil fuels
I see.
is warming the planet.
I'm sure we'll get into that. But so the fact that their CO2 was higher for much of the last
Irrelevant.
550 million years, that's
It's
not
irrelevant.
relevant.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
irrelevant.
That's natural drivers are irrelevant in this conversation. We're going to be focusing on the reality of AGW, regardless of the number of deflections or canards you'd like to throw out about the extremely early periods in our planet when natural drivers, solar activity, orbital activity, and so forth were drastically different.
I see. So, so none of that has any relevance on climate science today.
We know what is currently warming the planet now, and that is
Oh,
human activity. It's not natural drivers. It's not solar activity. It's not Milankovitch cycles.
oh,
So that is a simple reality of science. And
oh,
again, there is no credible, independent, and peer-reviewed research that can support any causation outside of human activity.
I see. And are there specific, and so over the last 800,000 years, what do we know about the relationship between CO2 and climate?
We know now that the increase in CO2 is driving a rapid increase in global temperatures.
Right. Over the last 800,000 years, what do we know about the relationship of CO2 and temperature?
Again, we know now, especially with the onset of the Holocene and most recently the Industrial Revolution, that human activity is pumping unnatural levels of carbon dioxide into the air, and this is in turn warming the planet at the fastest rate in roughly 34 million years.
34 million years. Oh, so is that relevant now? 34 million years?
When you see a rapid increase in temperature that cannot be explained by any other natural driver, and the denier narrative is notorious for failing to admit any or understand or even acknowledge
Hmm.
any other natural driver. When you see those numbers, even Exxon themselves accepted the reality of the effects of atmospheric CO2 from human activity.
Right. So what happened 34 million years ago?
Again, the distant past is irrelevant. What
Oh,
we
you
know now,
mentioned it. You
yeah,
mentioned it. So,
but we know that the rate of increase is wildly unnatural.
and you mentioned 800,000 years.
Yeah. And again, atmospheric CO2 over the past 150-ish years as a result of the Industrial Revolution is rapidly warming the planet. I don't think you're understanding this, Dave, or I
Hmm.
think you're refusing to just acknowledge the simple reality of that. Can you perhaps repeat it back what I'm saying?
Oh,
Atmospheric CO2 over the past 150 years with the
yeah,
onset of the Industrial Revolution
yeah.
is increasing the temperature of the planet. Are
According
we,
to
are we,
you. I
no,
understand.
no, according to the overwhelming
I
volume
see.
of research. This is why
Right.
the cumulative data supporting the reality of AGW is now at sigma level confidence, the highest formal level of scientific confidence.
Well, that's amazing. But have you looked at the Vostok ice core? What can we say about the relationship of CO2 and temperature over the last 800,000 years?
We can say now, and this, when I say we, this is actually NASA research,
Yes.
that CO2 increase is driving temperatures.
For
Now
800,000 years.
no, this is in the recent history since
For
the onset of the
800,000
industrial.
years, I'm asking you for 800,000 years. What can we say about the relationship?
That's irrelevant.
Oh,
What we know now, we know
hmm.
now that atmospheric CO2 has spiked well over 40% and still rising over any point in the natural cycle over that time frame. So we've done away with the innuendo that deniers love to roll out about, well, it might be this and it might be that, it might be that. No, no, it
Ah,
literally, we have hard data on that. What
ah,
we're also seeing is hard data that as this CO2 has increased,
hmm.
temperature has followed it. So the next question that I have for you is, if it's not CO2, David,
CO2 has
what's
increased, temperature has followed it in the last 150 years,
since the onset of the Industrial Revolution?
but
Yes,
not before.
it has. It's been a very intricate relationship. But again, David,
Oh,
if it's not CO2 that's warming the planet, if it's
yeah.
not this 40% rise in CO2, what's causing it?
Well, I'm
Total
just looking.
total solar irradiance has been declining for decades. That when I
Oh,
say total solar irradiance, the amount of energy the sun is actually laying onto the earth has been declining for decades. So it's not the sun. What else is it? What could it
not
be?
the sun. Could it be albedo?
That's a fancy word that deniers roll out, but they don't have any science, credible, independent, peer reviewed science to back that up.
Ah, okay. I'm just looking for something here. Do you say that temperature has not, that temperature is now higher than it has been for 800,000 years, or just CO2?
I'd say CO2, and of course, over the Holocene area, the world is now significantly warmer than at any point in the past 12,000 years.
12,000 years
The whole generally accepted as the Holocene.
is warmer than, say, the maximum temperatures of the early Holocene. Say around in 9,000, 10,000 years ago, temperatures are higher now.
Correct.
Okay, and that's based on what?
More paleoclimatology. Big words, big words.
Yeah, is there a paper on that? I'd be
A
interested.
variety, yes. In fact, Kaufman,
Great.
of course, Marcotte.
Hoffman. Is this we're talking about the early Holocene, or are we talking about something?
The from 12,000 years, roughly 12,000 years over the course of the Holocene through today.
I've got a Holocene temperature graph here. Let's see. Let's see here. Got Holocene.
I've got plenty if you'd like. But
Yeah, sure. You want to share your screen and show me a Holocene proxy temperature graph?
Sure. Let me bring up the Kaufman research.
I've got one here. I'm going to grab a glass of water. I'll be right back.
All right.
Share your screen. That's simple. Let's see. What do we got?
Yeah, bringing it up now. And we are. So this is from Kaufman et al. 2020, which is a follow-on to the Markov from 2013.
One second. Hold on one second. See if this works. All right. Sorry, I'm coming. Okay, so what do we got?
There we go. This is a chart from Kaufman 2020, again, follow on from Marcotte 2013, focusing on the Holocene era. This includes the timelines of the very worn out tropes on the part of the deniers about the medieval warming period and Roman warming period, and how since those were regional warm events, then AGW is nonsense. And of course, real science disproves that in no uncertain terms.
So this is a proof here.
Yes.
I see.
I'll be happy to post the link to this research in the chat as well.
Sure, that'd be great. Let me get the chat here. Yeah, sure. Great. So this is, do we prove things in science? Is science proven? So that, let's see, some of those temperatures at
it would be a disservice to try to break down a exhaustive study like this particular one during this conversation, but other than to say that there is significant data across multiple studies that do prove that this period is warmer than any time over the Holocene, in lockstep with rising atmospheric CO2 through human activity.
CO2, which you've mentioned many
Yes.
times. Yeah, sure.
Yes, yeah.
I understand that.
It's important to focus on the fundamentals of the argument.
I see. All right. And these temperatures, I don't know, the orange line at about 7,000 years ago, they're not close to today. Is that what you're saying?
They are relatively warm, yes, but they
Ah.
are not warmer than the period of today.
How would we know that? What do we know about the uncertainties on these numbers?
You're certainly welcome to read in earnest the research. Let me post the link here.
Sure. I'm always open to learning.
Are you really, David? Because I'm not seeing it.
Well, yeah, you know, I wrote an entire book on
Yeah.
how CO2 was
Greg
destroying
Wrightstone
the
wrote a
climate.
book too. That doesn't mean it's credible. And this is
Well, that's what I believed at the time.
Yeah. And so the fact that you're now working for the CO2 Coalition.
I work for the CO2 Coalition?
Your name has frequently appeared in videos on the CO2 Coalition Facebook site. Is that a different David Siegel?
I am a member of the CO2 Coalition.
There we go.
I do not work for the CO2 Coalition.
So the CO2 Coalition is, of course, comes from the ashes of the George Marshall Institute.
Are we sticking with the science now, or are you doing?
I'm happy to do so. I'm happy to do so.
Oh, okay, great. All right, I will share my screen. I've got more Holocene reconstructions. I used the one from Javier Vinos. So I'll just share what I've got from Javier. And I could get his source and put it into the notes. His proxy temperature and CO2 proxies look like this over the Holocene. Can you see that?
Yes, I can. And it's bunk, of course.
Ah, okay, that's bunk. So the Nature article is accurate and proof, and this is bunk.
The Nature, you're showing an illustration. The Nature article, of course, was peer reviewed.
Oh, well.
Which, peer reviewed. The verification, that's where the deniers fall flat. Verification. It's all an evil conspiracy by these smart people. Yeah, I see.
Let's go to the peer reviewed literature then, if that's where you like to get your facts.
If I can save you some time, if you're trying to look for peer reviewed literature supporting the denier narrative, and that is that the human activity is not warming the planet, you're going to come up goose eggs.
Actually, I curate a list of peer-reviewed scientific papers.
Yeah. I've seen the list, David, and it's a Gishgalop.
I see. Yeah. Gishgalop is your scientific method of working out.
Yeah.
I see.
And every time I've challenged you or anybody else on social media to pick one example from that list and hold it up as, this is a credible study, peer-reviewed, that is, clearly shows that AGW is all nonsense. And
so if I show you peer-reviewed papers, you'll debunk them with your Gishgalop argument. Is that right?
No, I'll just debunk them through a variety of ways. If they're not credibly peer-reviewed, and again, it doesn't exist. And I've called you out on this before, remember? Short memory, David, short memory.
I get a lot of people giving me a lot of lectures.
Yeah, you do. And rightfully so, because you're on the wrong side of science here.
I see.
And you're on the wrong side of ethics as well with your relationship with CO2 Coalition. Again,
what is my relationship?
You're a member of the CO2 Coalition. You appear in videos from them. And of course, CO2 Coalition is a fossil fuel front organization for all intents and purposes. Yes.
I see. Do you know how much money they get from fossil fuel organizations?
I would recommend people take a look at the heavily cited entry in the dsmog.com.
DSmog.
Page.
Oh, yes. That's where the facts are.
Well, yeah, when you realize that their facts are exhaustively cited, everybody loves to go for the genetic fallacy, and then when they're asked to discredit the citations, Then yeah, they start mumbling and whistling at the ceiling.
I see.
I
And
see.
what will you say about Will Happer then? Will you say he's a bad scientist?
I say he's never published a single example of credible, independent, and peer-reviewed research on climate science over the course of his career.
Has
On
he?
top of that, look up Will Happer in Wikipedia and
Oh,
take a look at the little incident they had with the Greenpeace sting.
hmm,
That will tell you plenty right there.
hmm. And what about Richard Lindzen?
Richard Lindzen, again, not a single example of credible, independent, peer-reviewed science, and his track record of predictions have been laughably incorrect.
And why was he chosen for the initial working group one by the IPCC?
His predictions have been laughably incorrect.
And the IPCC's predictions have been amazingly accurate.
The reality is that on balance, major climate models going back decades have proven to be remarkably accurate. And this
Oh, wow.
includes the models from Exxon from over 40 years ago, 1982, in fact,
Oh,
when they
wow.
were within rounding errors of predicting the CO2 level as well as the temperature increase as a result. So let's clear this out. Even Exxon's own research, which is publicly available on their website now, in fact,
Sure.
shows that they were aware over 40 years ago of the reality of AGW.
That's amazing.
Amazing. Yeah. And even Rex Tillerson, the CEO of Exxon, under oath testified that they knew about the reality of AGW.
Well, that sounds peer reviewed.
Under oath, people
That
tend to
sounds peer
be,
reviewed.
yeah,
Yeah. And John Clauser, Nobel Prize laureate in physics. Do you want to debunk him?
he has never published a single example of credible, independent, and peer reviewed research in his
Mhm.
career. On top of that, if I want to get
Oh,
my brakes
wait
checked,
a minute. John Clauser has never published a single peer-reviewed paper. Is that what you're
he
saying?
has never published a single example of credible, independent, and peer reviewed research in climate science in his
Hmm.
career.
I see. Okay. Fine. You just,
So,
so you're
so
just, he doesn't have any qualifications here.
he has not demonstrated any research that can be considered verifiable and reliable
I see. But
in the field.
Catherine Hayhoe,
In the field.
has
So
the,
yeah.
she has
Again,
the right credentials.
the data supporting AGW is now at the highest formal level of scientific
Oh my
confidence.
gosh.
Climate models, goodness gracious, climate models have demonstrated to be so accurate that they, in fact, one of the fundamental architects of the primary climate models going back decades was recently given the Nobel Prize in Science for his work.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
happy.
yeah. Exxon's own models predicted
There's work.
AGW. And again, in spite of all of the star power as far as scientists that you roll out, not a single example of peer-reviewed research has come forth supporting their claims that human activity is not warming the planet. Not one, David. You would think so. And when all the money that all of the denier networks are pouring into this narrative and all the money that fossil fuel organizations are pouring into these mouthpieces and not a single example of credible research. Why is that? Is it a conspiracy on the part of the shadowy New World Order? Is it a conspiracy on the part of George Soros? It's 97+%, 99% now of
Mm,
climate scientists. Are they all in cahoots? Is that it, David? No, it's not it. That's
mm,
not it.
mm.
Superior science always wins, David.
Okay.
And there is no credible science supporting the denier narrative.
Okay.
You can crab walk, you
So
can wheedle, you
this
can
is
try to
a
slither.
this is a NASA paper, peer reviewed, published in 2020 from Meritu data. Says the observed behavior of climatic complexity could be explained by changes in cloud amount.
Climatic complexity. So where does this say that human activity is not warming the planet? Where does it say that?
Here we say, we study the causality of these changes using transfer entropy to capture the nonlinear dynamics of climate, showing that changes are mainly driven by variations in shortwave radiation. And that would be explained by changes in cloud amount. This is a NASA paper.
Yeah. So where does it say that human activity is not warming the planet? Where does it say that CO2, atmospheric CO2, and the rapid rise over the past 150 years is not the primary driver of the current spike in global temperatures?
Would that be in the abstract of a peer-reviewed paper?
If you can't point it out to me, then you don't have anything. And this is another favorite denier tactic. Take a paper, post a headline, hope nobody actually reads the paper, hope nobody does any kind of consideration on their own, because there's nothing there. So where does this paper say? No. Where does it say, David?
I don't know. I was fascinated.
Oh, yeah. You don't know, because it doesn't, David. Again, there is not a single example of credible, independent, and peer-reviewed research that supports the denier narrative.
Okay, so this is worthless. This is just piece of research is just worth nothing.
It's a canard. It's a canard.
It's a canard from NASA.
No, it's a canard from you.
I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. The NASA people are very busy.
No. It's a canard from you. Where does it say, David? Where does it say? Where does it say, David?
Oh, I don't know. These are just scientists.
No. Where does it say, David? Where does it say?
Maybe
where does it say, David?
No, wait a minute.
Where does it say?
BT, if I remember correctly. You're saying that if you were speaking to the scientists,
no.
Wrote this
Where does this paper say human activity is not warming the planet, David?
It doesn't.
Exactly. Next canard, next trope. Keep moving.
Sure. World Research Journal of Advanced Research and Reviews. Is that good enough for you, or that doesn't make any, or you're going to debunk that?
I haven't read it.
Okay, it's peer reviewed, so
okay. Where does it say that human activity is not warming the planet?
Let's see. Decreasing global cloud area must have been caused by some other unspecified factor and was not caused directly or indirectly by CO2.
Okay, and let's see. Scroll to the, can you post the link here?
Sure. What do you want?
Can you post a link in the, yes, link in the chat, please?
Sure. Here you go. Of course.
So here's something interesting.
I'm sharing my screen. Hold on, I gotta get it. Here we go.
So clouds are new. This is one of the favorite. Clouds are new. We haven't had clouds before. This is something that's caused the planet to rapidly warm in the past 150 years. This is new. I'm almost sure clouds are new. Yeah, clouds are new. Clouds are new. I distinctly remember seeing paintings of clouds going back hundreds and hundreds of years.
And so this is your scientific argument.
This is pointing out, again, the fundamental trope.
So this is a trope paper.
It's a trope paper. See, did you post that in chat?
I did.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, wow. And this, of course, is in a peer-reviewed journal, right?
Of course it is.
Of course it is, yeah. Like the Elsevier network.
I don't know. You're the one who debunks the networks.
Yes, I do. Okay. Happy to do so. So Michael O. Jonas, independent researcher.
Yeah.
So Michael O. Jonas, so single author, no research organization in support. Those are always good flags.
Yeah.
A random journal or fast publication of research and review articles. Okay, that's a good one. Okay, so this is one I'll take to the to our favorite Facebook forum for put a lot of red flags just in the first page.
I'm sure you'll find many.
Oh yeah, because it's not legit. But funny how strange of me to ask for legitimate, credible data, huh?
Right, you've changed from peer-reviewed to legitimate, credible. I understand. That's in your mind.
There's a big difference. No. It's it's in the scientific zeitgeist.
Oh,
so this is not.
So everything in nature is 100% accurate. Nature
never said that. Never said that.
Oh,
but peer review is a very valuable and respected process of ensuring scientific accuracy. It's not perfect, but when you given the fact that there is over, gosh, what, 150, 160 years going way back of research proving the reality of AGW and CO2's role as a powerful greenhouse gas.
Are
Kind of
you
hard to argue.
familiar with Norman Loeb?
No.
He wrote a paper you would like back in like 2012 or something about CO2 being, you know, a driver of climate. And this is his more recent paper in 2020. I want to show you that one. Loeb et al. From 2012 or something will show you the standard alarmist stuff. This is 2020. Let me just double check that. Where's the 2023? Sorry, October 23. This came out last year. That's right. And this is observational assessment change. And this is in Nature Survey in Geophysics.
And where does this say that CO2 is not causing the planet to rapidly warm?
So, well, remember his previous paper said exactly that.
Okay, yeah, and then
So
which
now,
is still correct.
Yes, according to you. And now
No, still correct according to
According to
exhaustive science. According to exhaustive science, David.
That's right.
According to exhaustive science.
I love the convincing tone that that really does it.
All you're doing is trying to sleaze your way around the reality.
Let's look at this
slither, David.
Let's look at this paper.
Exhaustive research has proven this over and over and over again.
This is peer reviewed. We find that large decreases in stratocumulus and middle clouds over the subtropics.
Clouds, of course, new. We've only seen clouds recently. This is fascinating. Clouds are new. My goodness, who would have guessed?
Our primary reasons for increasing absorbed solar radiation in the northern hemisphere.
Okay, northern hemisphere.
Especially large over eastern and northern Pacific Ocean.
And where does this say that CO2 is not warming the planet, David?
His previous paper said exactly that.
Yeah, and he was right in that. Where does this
now paper, he's gone off
where
the rail.
does this paper, where does this paper say that CO2 is not warming the planet, David?
And then he says decrease in middle cloud reflection.
Where does this paper say CO2 is not warming the planet?
No, this is Norman Loeb. He's one of your champions.
Where does this paper say CO2 is not warming the planet?
Does
David,
raising your voice make it more accurate? Is that how it works?
Stop slithering around the question. Stop slithering. Where?
Okay, so let's throw this paper out because this was just written by hacks.
Does this paper say it doesn't? Next.
It says of changes in the Earth's energy imbalance.
Moving.
Ah, okay. I see.
Where does the paper support the denier narrative, David? Where does the paper? I keep getting cock-blocked every time he tries to slither. Oh my gosh, how terrible.
I feel like it's the tone of voice that does it for you mostly.
Yeah, and you're still slithering, David. You got nothing, buddy. You have nothing. You got nothing.
Let's see. What about International Journal of Geosciences?
If it doesn't say CO2 is not warming the planet, keep it.
Well, then
you have nothing, David. We've established that exhaustively. You have nothing.
Decoupling CO2 from climate change.
Retired, independent researcher.
This is International Journal of Geosciences. Is this peer reviewed? International Journal of Geosciences? It is. I check. Every single one of these papers is peer reviewed.
It's remarkable, especially with some of these favorites of deniers like the Elsevier pronunciation. Where does this?
Elsevier.
Yes, Elsevier. Yeah, that they claim peer review, but then they never tell you anything about their methodology, or they don't have. They've in fact been called out frequently for claiming certain academic figures are in their advisor board, and the academic figures were very surprised to hear that. So
we'll have to wipe this one out because this is just disqualified by your own.
Post a link, please.
Rhetoric.
Post a link.
Sure, no problem.
Again, there is not a single example of credible, independent, and peer-reviewed research that supports the denier narrative.
I see. And
I see.
I see
Yeah.
that you're going to show me the one paper that shows clearly without models that CO2 is raising temperature.
Oh, so now models are yeah, we've already
Well, models
taken a
are
look at
easy.
models. Yeah, no, models are
Really
very
easy to
hard.
change.
Models involve a lot of math, which unfortunately a lot of deniers don't get, which is one of the reasons they're deniers. Models have proven to be accurate time and time again.
Oh,
And even Exxon's own models from 1982, when the Apple II with 48K of RAM
oh
and a
my
1
God.
megahertz processor,
Yeah.
goodness, they even knew back then. It's almost like it's a fact. It's almost like it's a fact. Even Exxon themselves knew it. How can this be, David? How can it all be bunk when the evil empire themselves on their own website has data, has a study showing that they knew over 40 years ago? This is what's so hilarious about the denier narrative is
Mhm.
the cognitive dissonance that's like, you know, Exxon says this now, but Exxon knew that then. And they hearing their two brain cells
Mhm.
screech against each other as they're trying to reconcile that is hysterical. And this is where you are, David.
Oh.
This is where you
And
are.
the AMO, do you want to give me a lecture on the AMO?
I'm simply here. You can try every angle, you can try every dodge,
Right.
every trope. It's
Yeah.
really become kind of a comical taxonomy at this point. It's so predictable. In fact, there has been a study on the denier tropes that they love to trot out and the subtropes and the sub-subtropes.
I'm sure it was peer reviewed.
Yeah, and you can't get around the fact that there is no credible research supporting the denier narrative. It's
Hmm.
because it doesn't, it's nonsense.
Hmm.
Human activity is driving a rapid increase in atmospheric CO2, which is in turn driving a rapid increase of planetary temperatures. This in turn is driving accelerating sea level rise. What are your questions, David? Or do you want to keep trying to
Yeah. Was
feeling away
sea
from the
level
outside?
rising before, say, 1900?
Sea levels have risen roughly a foot since 1850 and are rising at an accelerating rate now with 10 to
Ah,
12 inches around the US. Now unavoidable, completely locked in. We can't avoid it.
how do we know it's accelerating then?
So the nice folks at NOAA using tidal and satellite gauges
Yeah.
have been keeping track for quite a while.
Oh, let's go look at the tide gauges. I love that. Tides and
Yeah.
currents. There we go. Sea level trends. Which let's look at that. I love this website. So according to NOAA, sea level is accelerating,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
All right, where's it? Pick a station. Where do you want to start to look first?
Well,
This includes,
you can see all of the arrows from here.
yes, these include
Click global, and you can see all of the arrows.
land subsidence.
Yeah, vertical land motion is taken into account, and they
That's
specify
right.
that multiple times. Yeah.
Right. Well, we'll look at Seattle here. What's going on with Seattle? Here's Seattle. So, and this shows the acceleration.
You can't cherry pick your way around, and
Okay, what
as try as you might,
just
you
choose
can't
any.
cherry pick.
I have not seen Seattle before. I'm just
Yeah. Oh, of
yes.
course not.
I'm just choosing random. Hold on, I just got a
Yeah.
bunch of furniture here to get out of the way. Sea level rise. So we'll go back. Pick any station you like. I don't care. I'm just choosing randomly here.
No, no, this is called cherry picking, David. You
Oh,
don't
so what?
pick globally. Global. That's the thing, David. Global.
So all of not one of these is going to help you substantiate your claim of acceleration. Not one, not a single,
Global.
nothing. If we
Global.
looked at,
No,
say, 10 of these,
you can't cherry pick your way around a global issue, David,
I'm randomly
randomly.
choosing. Yeah, you can choose any one you like. I don't know what these, no, it's not very long duration. I'm looking for longer durations are where they have had records longer, so mostly in the north. Spain, let's see, does that look like acceleration to you? You want to look at Hawaii, maybe? Johnston Island there. I don't see acceleration. Do you? I mean, there shouldn't, if it's non-linear, shouldn't we, if it's acceleration, shouldn't we see that?
Yeah, we see it. We see it.
Uh-huh.
We see it. Or do
Well, no.
you want to keep cherry picking, David? I mean, that
Yeah,
is
sure. This is
literally
computed, right?
computed. No, well, I'm
Sure.
sorry, computed. So
The only way to do
satellite,
an average is to compute.
satellite. Yeah. Again, it's not hard to do averages, David. Even for deniers, they
Right.
can do at least
Right.
some averages.
Right.
So
But
this is
that's not the raw data, and I'm showing the raw data. So you don't want to look at the raw data, I guess.
This is you can't cherry pick your way around global sea level rise at
I'm
an
not. I'll
accelerating
look at
rate. No,
any
you're
tide
no.
gauge. Any tide gauge.
What does this chart say? What does this chart say? This is
This
in
is
NOAA's own data.
sure. Well, this is
What does the chart say, David?
it shows I'm not
Global sea
sure
level. Yeah, global sea level is rising at an accelerating rate.
an
Global sea level
accelerating
is
rate.
rising rate. Yeah, an accelerating rate. Yeah. Your
Are there
Colombo Act is
are there different ways of measuring sea level here in this chart?
tidal and satellite. You got
And
something
so,
else?
yeah, can we tell where the satellite started?
I think, let's see, I can bring up another one that
I think
can
it's the
do that
black
if you
line.
like. Yeah, that looks about right. Let me bring it.
And do we know anything about the calibration of the instruments on those satellites? Because they changed instruments halfway through.
Yeah, I'm sure that the folks at NASA never do anything like that. That's you've got us there. I mean, come on. Yeah, you've seen through it.
I
You've
can
seen
show you
through
the
it.
papers.
Yeah, I'm sure you can.
I can.
So yeah, it looks like about 1984-ish, 85-ish is
Yeah.
when satellites started kicking in.
Yeah, then they changed sensors in
Yeah,
about
they change.
19.
That's of course it. Yeah, they don't compensate for that. That's a good point, David. Yeah,
I can
God,
show
you
you the
got us.
paper.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. I'm sure you can.
All right, so
And
it's
this,
on no tide gauges in the world show this, but
no tide gauges in the world show this
acceleration, right?
acceleration. So other than the fact that the tide gauge data right here clearly shows acceleration
Which
right in
tide
front of you,
gauge
David.
data? I'm sorry.
Are you looking at the blue lines at all?
I see Discover, following news, sports, money, gaming, weather, Microsoft
Sorry.
Start.
Let me bring this up for you.
I don't know.
Let's see. Shared the wrong screen. Pardon me.
No problem.
How's that?
I see double click to, oh, global average sea level change relative to 1880 tide gauge data, satellite data.
Tidal and satellite data, in conclusion, show accelerating sea level rise. Tidal and
I
satellite
see, I
data.
can see the tide gauge data. It's a dark blue
Thank you.
line.
So what are your questions here?
Yeah,
Did
I'd
they
like
did
to, sure. I mean, I'm happy to agree with this if I could understand how they did it, because I've looked at maybe a couple hundred tide gauges data and
of course not.
I haven't seen it in the tide gauges. So I would like to know. Yeah. So if you've got a paper on how they made this, I'd like to see that. Yeah, sure. Be great. Be very interesting.
How many would you like?
One paper on how this graph was made.
Okay. Just go to the, I'll just copy this link in here and you are welcome
But I
to
need the
research.
source.
Welcome to, here's your link. Enjoy.
So you don't have the paper. You're just saying somehow they figured it out.
I'm sure the NOAA just wings it. Why not?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. They just wing it. Yeah, they just make it up. Yeah, who knows? Who knows? But a CO2 coalition member is onto them here. Yeah, that's the funny thing is yeah, these shadowy conspiracies by all the scientists have been found out by the fossil fuel industry, shills, frauds, and liars, and
I'm
billionaires.
reading. I don't. You can keep going on if you want. 1880 since 1900. See related sources. I've seen all that stuff. I don't. Yeah, they don't say how they put this graph together, so I'm not sure. I will look more into it, but it looks like a mystery to me so far.
Yeah, that's it. You're onto them, David. You
Does
got them.
look mysterious.
It's a mystery.
Well, I'm sure they'll talk about their methodology somewhere. They just don't talk about it on this page. And I don't know why. All right.
So I think we've established one that you don't have a single example of credible, independent, peer-reviewed research proving that CO2 from human activity is not warming the planet, which
Except for
really,
the paper I showed, of course, and
so a paper, which
and there's the Loeb paper, which is significant because
which
Loeb.
does not in any way state that CO2 from human activity is not warming the planet. We've established that. So what else do we need to talk about today, David? This has been a
Well,
rather
if you
lopsided.
believe the Loeb paper, then the Loeb paper says that temperature increase since 2000 is primarily due to cloud changes. So are you saying that's driven by CO2?
Does the paper say that CO2 through human activity is not warming the planet?
In a sense, it actually does, BT, because
It
if it
doesn't,
were,
yeah.
okay, so
See,
Loeb is ignoring the stuff that he wrote a previous paper about.
If this paper did make that claim in a peer-reviewed journal like Nature,
Yeah.
every fossil fuel misinformation outlet on the planet would be waving it around like there was no tomorrow, but it doesn't. So that's why they don't.
So this paper by Loeb willfully ignores the CO2 influence.
Does it say that human activity?
I'm asking you, does he willfully ignore the CO2 evidence?
I'm asking you. I'm sticking to the crux of the conversation here. That is human activity warming the planet.
Well, his goal in the paper was to find out.
Does it say CO2 through human activity is not warming the planet?
Well, that would be the only way to prove anything, I guess.
And which has been exhaustively proven by now. I see. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, let's move on. I'm sure you have some papers on glaciers. Peer-reviewed papers on glaciers.
Melt balance is rapidly declining in the ice sheets around the world. That is a fact of a variety of different methodologies. But again, this is to be expected with the planet rapidly warming as a result of CO2 through human activity, right?
Or the AMO.
So the AMO is not new.
No.
Nope.
The
Been around for a while.
Up and down.
Yeah.
Glacier mass balance goes up and down.
Yeah. And now that the planet is rapidly warming, the total melt balance has been rapidly declining for decades. That's a fact of hard data.
How long is the AMO cycle? Any idea?
Glaciers are rapidly losing melt balance.
How long is the AMO cycle? Do you know?
Glaciers are rapidly losing melt balance.
I'll just tick that off. You have no idea how long the AMO.
Glaciers are rapidly losing melt balance as a result of a rapidly warming planet. Or is the planet not warming, David? Is that it?
I'm talking about the AMO cycle.
Is the planet not warming?
If you look at the
planet not
AMO
warming?
cycle,
Is the planet not warming, David? Yes or no?
absolutely.
Yes or no?
Since about 60 years of AMO, yes.
So the AMO is new.
Yes.
So the AMO is new.
No, before
And
that, the AMO was negative and temperatures went down. Before that, the AMO was positive and temperatures went up. Before
and
that, AMO was negative and temperatures went down.
The fact that CO2 now, and if you do have a example of credible, independent, and peer-reviewed research proving that the AMO is in fact warming the planet and not atmospheric CO2 through human activity, by all means put it forth. But you
Let's
don't.
see.
You don't.
I don't.
You don't. No, of course
I
you don't.
Oh.
You don't have a single example of credible, independent, and peer-reviewed research.
Well, if I showed it to you, you would shoot it down for some various reasons, but
you don't, David. It doesn't
I
exist. Yeah, I see. I see. So again, David, it's down to this. Put up or shut up. If you don't have an example of credible, independent, and peer-reviewed research that supports the denier narrative, that being human activity is not, in fact, warming the planet through atmospheric emissions.
Why did temperatures go down in the 60s and 70s, by the way?
Nothing. You got nothing, David.
Why did temperatures go down in the 60s and 70s?
Is the planet rapidly warming now, David?
Oh, sure.
Is CO2 rapidly climbing?
So
it's that you can't slither around it, David. Even Exxon admits it. Why are you bothering denying? Even Exxon admits it.
I've heard a lot about Exxon in this conversation.
Yeah, even Exxon admits it.
And is that peer reviewed also, the Exxon research? Is that peer reviewed?
Even Exxon admits it.
So Exxon admits or peer reviewed. These are the authoritative sources.
Even
if it's Exxon, it's okay.
It's on their own website.
Or peer reviewed. But if it's a Nobel Prize winner, no chance.
A Nobel Prize winner that has not published.
If it's a guy who was chosen by the IPCC to be part of the principal author,
I don't care about personalities.
That doesn't matter.
I don't care about individuals. I care about the research. If you don't have the research, you can do all the appeal to authority with these.
You're appealing to Exxon.
Exxon, the overwhelming volume of science over the past 160 years. They all admit it. They all know. Why are you bothering? And it's becoming just hysterical at this point, David.
I'm sure the people watching this are just laughing.
Yeah, rightfully so.
Yes.
Are you going to lose your gig with the CO2 coalition after getting thrashed?
I don't have a gig.
You're a member, right?
Yeah,
you've been featured by name on their videos that they're currently showing on Facebook now. Do they do that just for the average Joe?
I haven't seen any of those. I have no idea.
Take a look.
By the way.
Take a look. Take a look.
It's news to me.
That literally is the primary reason I agreed to drag you through the ditch today.
Oh, I see.
Yes. Again, David, you don't have a single example of credible.
I'm looking at an AMO paper here. I'm trying to understand.
I'm not going to real time with you on this, David. You came in unprepared. You got nothing. We all know by now you have nothing. We've been doing this for 45 minutes, 50 minutes, and you still haven't been able to put anything forth.
Well, let's ask a few questions.
No, I'm ask the question.
Oh, you're all done. Is that it?
You got nothing. We've been sitting here watching you desperately slither and dodge for the past probably what?
I'm happy to
45 minutes of the past 50 minutes.
I'm happy to post it.
You got nothing. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you post it on our favorite Facebook forum there. Be happy to run you through that.
I will, no problem.
And just to those listening in, make sure and point out that it's the climate change battle royale or global warming battle royale.
I don't know. I posted a couple forums.
Good fun.
Yeah, climate change battle royale.
Yeah, good fun.
Sure. Well, so you've ruled out anything before 1970, it sounds like, right? Fine.
Where did I say that?
Well, I asked you, why did temperature
I'm
temperatures go
asking
down in the
you for
60s and 70s.
examples. I'm asking you for an example of credible, independent, and peer-reviewed research that proves that the planet is not rapidly warming through human activity.
And I'm fine. And I showed you a couple, and I understand.
You got nothing.
I understand. I haven't seen a credible peer-reviewed paper that shows that CO2 is
Feldman 2015. Feldman 2015. I'll leave you with that.
Feldman paper. Well, I know the Feldman paper.
Feldman 2015.
I know the paper.
11,000, over 11,000 measurements, 2 locations, thousands of miles
2
apart.
locations.
10 years.
And
it proved, it provided empirical data showing
empirical data. So can I ask a question about that, or is that not allowed?
Read it yourself.
I've read
again,
it.
To the read. Yeah. Feldman 2015.
I want to tell the viewers about
where's it wrong?
2015.
Where's it wrong?
I have a question.
Where's it wrong?
He says in the paper that over 10 years, humans are responsible for 0.2 degrees Celsius over 10 years in 2 specific locations.
11,000 measurements.
0.2 degrees in 10 years.
From 2000 to 2010.
Yes.
In 10 years.
And what do you suppose the accuracy of his
AGW did not start at 2000 and it didn't end at 2010. It's been going for decades before, and it's been going for decades after.
Right.
The planet is rapidly warming as a result of human activity.
We're talking about peer-reviewed research here.
Peer-reviewed research.
2 locations, 0.2 degrees in 10 years, attributable to humans.
And provide, exactly. And provides, and we are currently, of course, on track to exceed the 1.5 degree target as a result of that rate of warmth.
It's funny that humans have climate targets. I love that.
Yeah,
I love how the UN sets climate targets that people like to repeat.
I bet you do. Bet you do. Yeah, it's all that crazy science again. So
I appreciate the fact that you believe in climate targets. That says a lot.
And you apparently believe that I'm going to bite on any of these childish deflections, David. Seriously, do you? I mean, who do you think you? I'm not a politician. I actually have a IQ in excess of room temperature.
Oh, I see. Okay. So putting other people down is a way of raising yourself up. Is that your approach?
I'm just calling out somebody who brought a knife to a gunfight.
I see. And
you got nothing, David.
Again, the Feldman paper is proof
it's
that humans
until
are causing, and
it's quite conclusive in that. Quite conclusive in that. But if you have a paper or an example of credible, independent, and peer-reviewed research that disproves or at least heavily redacts the Feldman findings, feel free to put it forward.
And has it been?
But you can't. You can't. You got nothing, David. You got nothing.
Has it been verified? Has any other research team independently verified those results?
Peer-reviewed research, 10 years, 11,000 measurements, 2 locations, thousands of miles apart.
Were any models involved?
All right, so you're going back to the models? We've already done that. Models going
easy.
Back decades. Models are hard.
Models are trivially easy to do.
Now you're just lying full cloth.
Models. You can get models to say anything.
Yeah. And dozens of models have proven to be exceptionally accurate against direct observations, including Exxon's own primitive model.
What about
including models going back over 50 years have proven to be accurate? The first climate model actually proved to be accurate.
It's a 65-year
How can this be?
Cycle.
How can this be?
65-year cycle.
It's not new. It's not new.
It's a 65 years. For those watching,
you got nothing.
The AMO is a 65-year cycle. That
you have just turned. The planet was warming faster. The planet was warming faster going back. You've got nothing, David. You have
nothing.
In
the 1930s, what happened exactly? Was that CO2 driving temperature?
You got nothing, David.
Okay.
So we'll still the fundamental challenge. When you have a single example of credible, independent, and peer-reviewed research that proves human activity through CO2 emissions is not currently and rapidly warming the planet, you have an argument. I'll be happy to talk to you about that when you get it, but you won't. So I think this will be our last conversation.
I've shown you one. You've asked for peer reviewed. I showed you one. I think that many people who submit 2 papers like Nature don't get accepted, obviously.
Well, I'm sorry, where did your Nature paper say that human activity is not rapidly warming the planet?
No, I showed you
No. You didn't show me a Nature paper, a legitimately peer-reviewed paper. Yeah, just to be clear. Yeah.
Right. And according to you, all Nature papers are accurate.
No, I never said that.
Okay.
According to me, you have no credible, independent, and peer review research supporting the denier narrative. We've established that exhaustively by this point.
I see.
We're coming up on an hour, David. If you've got any bullets left,
summarize here.
Yeah. Summarize. You have nothing.
Okay, that's your summary.
It's still waiting.
Okay, yeah, my summary is that it's very difficult to get published in Nature unless you're shouting the alarm and showing how CO2.
Oh, really? And you have proof that Nature is deliberately cherry picking publications?
Yes, we have.
You have proof.
Sure, Will.
Go ahead and go ahead and say the name I know you're going to say, and I will shoot it down in 5 seconds.
Will Happer has that.
Will Happer.
Yeah.
So.
Well, he's an atmospheric physicist from Princeton.
He has not a single example of credible,
and
not one piece of research.
Your favorite guy, Loeb, who published a big paper.
And his paper did not say anything to support the denier narrative. It does not say anywhere that human activity is not warming the planet. You can't slither around these realities, David. I know you've gotten all kinds of little dodges and deceptions and misdirection. And the fact is, you have nothing. The denier narrative.
Just for our audience, can you tell us what happened to raise temperatures in 1998? Anything?
Human activity.
Was there a spike in CO2 that drove the spike in temperatures in 1998?
Human activity through CO2 emission is rapidly warming the planet. That is a fact of exhaustive research.
Is the El Nino a factor in surface in the temperatures?
Of course it is. Of course it is.
Oh, it is.
And it's averaged out. And human activity, so is solar activity. But on balance, all natural drivers should right now be very slightly cooling the planet, but instead it's warming rapidly.
During the positive phase of the AMO,
and we're supposed to look at the skyrocketing levels of CO2.
Why is
over 40% higher, over 40% higher than any point in the past 800,000 years of the natural CO2.
Supposed to be cooling. Can you help me with that?
On balance, all natural drivers, solar activity, aerosols, and so forth, should be slightly cooling the planet. But instead, it's rapidly warming.
Why?
And it's rapidly warming as a result
your
of
magic
human
wand
activity.
there. I didn't quite get the cause and effect. Why should the planet be cooling naturally?
Solar activity, total solar irradiation. So I'm sorry, pardon me. Total solar irradiation has been declining for irradiance has been declining for decades.
Has been declining for decades.
Yeah.
Do you mean surface absorbed, I guess?
Total solar irradiation, TSI, has demonstrated through 3 different data sets, the PMOD,
at the top of the atmosphere, or at the
and the REM. Surface?
Yeah, the surface, sure. Well, that would
total
be albedo.
Solar radiance.
That would be albedo.
Total solar radiance, TSI, through 3 different data sets has been shown to be declining for decades.
That would be albedo. Doing that. We've got good peer-reviewed papers on that. That's clear.
And you don't have a single peer-reviewed paper that shows that human activity is not warming the planet through increasing CO2 emissions. You can't slither around that. Just say it. You have nothing, David. You got nothing.
I appreciate your time.
So do I. I can't wait to see the heavily redacted version of this on YouTube.
I won't cut a thing. I'll put it on YouTube right away.
If I will say, as high a level as contempt as I currently hold you in, if you do post this intact without any editing or redaction, I will salute you. I will publicly salute you, in fact.
It'll be up in about an hour as soon as I get it from Zoom.
Thank you.
All right.
Good fun.
Take care.